Hello and welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is American Ben. If I posed the question, what does utopia look like, what would you say? I mean, I know my answer, and go with me on this. Nothing but Wendy's spicy chicken sandwiches everywhere, and the more you eat of them, the better person you become. But I'd imagine many of you, champions of the YouTube webway, aka the realm of chaos, are now salivating over your keyboards as you imagine one of a range of answers that involves the complete obliteration of the alien horde, and the subsequent persistence of humanity through time and absolute absence of conflict. But is utopia what follows the annihilation of one's enemies? Or does such a suggestion fundamentally misunderstand the principles of reality and human behavior within it? Then again, I suppose I'd have to concede that the spicy chicken sandwich paradise would probably not inspire the cessation of human internecine conflict. Ultimately, vegans exist so that we don't become the idolaters of that holy poultry, bathed in the sacred mayonnaise and encased in the bread of our forefathers. In the world of the Expanse, hundreds of years into the future, humanity has fragmented into different bodies of power throughout the Sol system. There's the United Nations, headquartered on Earth, the Mars Congressional Republic based on Mars, and the Belt, inhabited by those wayward souls lost among rocks and stars. And these three powers are locked in conflict, bound to erupt in violence at every given moment. Absolute peace in this universe suggests itself to be an improbable outcome, and in today's video I want to examine this power dynamic and question just how alienated human society is from its most utilitarian reality achievable. To begin, at the most macro level of examination, the struggle at hand is between, as stated, Earth, Mars, and the Belt. Earth, though its ecosystem has deteriorated substantially due to human neglect and mismanagement, still has the advantage of thousands of years of civilization building and a naturally habitable home planet over its rivals, and thus is probably the ideal place to live for a human in the Sol system. The UN's primary motivation when we, the audience, first enter into the story is to ensure the preeminence of Earth over all other powers known to man. Naturally, the rise of other states in the Sol system presents a threat to Earth from the perspective of its inhabitants. They aren't comfortable with the Belt's emergence as a legitimate power and have their sights set closely on the OPA, a militant faction of Belters whom Deputy Undersecretary of the UN Christian Avasarala might call terrorists. After all, the OPA engages in certain illicit behaviors in regards to intra-system norms, such as weapon smuggling and ship hijacking, though nothing too terrible. The United Nations' most pressing concern, however, is the ascendancy of Mars as a superpower in the Sol system. The people of Mars, ingrained with a deep sense of distrust towards the people of Earth for the neglect exacted on Mars during its time as a colony of the UN, are eager for Mars to assert itself on the intra-system stage as a dominant actor. Martians have terraformed for hundreds of years with the promise of a prosperous and independent future fueling their labors. They're committed to the state and brimming with nationalistic fervor, ready to invite war if such should be a necessary step towards system-wide superiority. Meanwhile, from the Belt's point of view, both Earth and Mars have exploited their people, utilized their labor for spoils. They toil in the mines for the establishment powers and are left a pittance to build up a nation of their own. Poor, sickly, and desperate, most Belters believe to some degree that the Belt must assert its sovereignty in the Sol system and free itself from the weight of subservience. The tensions between these powers run high, and sometimes result in violence and catastrophe. With the introduction of the protomolecule, an infectious alien agent, into the mix, the conflict is greatly exacerbated, as all powers attempt to weaponize it to the gain of their own security and ambition. And as you, the viewing audience, watch this conflict unfold and the important events therein, a number of questions might run through your mind. For instance, you might ponder pathways that lead to the amelioration of interstate relations. How can the three powers all be united together in common cause? Or perhaps you wonder how this all could have been avoided. How could Earth's kingdom have manifested into the Sol system without turning vociferous? These thoughts are so very frustrating, especially because at the height of tension, concord seems an unlikely achievement in the reasonably close future. However, I posit to you that this thinking is flawed, because humans are not very well conditioned to interpret the workings of power balance against human instinct and resultant behavior. Instead, the subconscious mind persuades its user that complete agreement among all humans, whereby there is no conflict and everyone's interests are identical, is a state of harmony. This is the idea of utopia. We are wired to endeavor to reach this magical future, where there are no governments, no political preferences, no wars, just stillness. But I submit to you that this is a paradoxical notion. Why? Well, if everyone's in agreement, then there is tyranny. There are no checks on thought. there is no moderating force on the most extreme propositions of man. Absolute unity suggests only that there is total agreement on ideas, not that the ideas themselves have any certain quality, whether they are sage or destructive, extreme or moderate. And unanimity of thought would seem to imply that there is no counteracting force against movement towards the extreme. Though perhaps in the utopian reality, where resources are non-rivalrous, either thought is restrained from the extreme is less threatening, or there are no ideas at all. However, this utopia would require a completely different set of principles than beset the material reality we are confronted with. Checks on power, opposing forces within a state, are what push the state itself towards the most objective truth possible. With no critics, there is no dissent, and we become a species unbeholden to criticism. And given that there are no known alien species extant in the Expanse's universe as of yet, it is the very separation of power in the Sol system and the sincere distrust and criticism of one power towards another that not only drives each to calculate its decisions with restraint, but motivates each power to attempt to surpass the other in learning, for instance in scientific or technological achievement. Earth, Mars, and the Belt are all more authoritarian in terms of their respective government structures than modern-day Western democrats, lowercase d, might have hoped. Nonetheless, power balancing is refocused among states spread across space. When Christian Avasarala discovers UN Undersecretary Sadavir Ehrenreit's corruption in working with private company Protogen to develop a weapon from the protomolecule, she collaborates with the Martian Navy to get a message about Ehrenreit's transgressions to her colleague Admiral Souther. Then, when human mecha Bobby Draper discovers the scheme carried out by some of her superiors in the Martian Marine Corps to develop a protomolecule weapon, she runs to Earth's government for help. Then, when Belter Kamina Drummer needs help in order to take back the OPAS behemoth from Clyce Ashford and stop him from destroying the Ringgate, she employs the help of Martians and Earthers alike. So you see, the tension between these powers keeps them all in check and serves as a protective mechanism for the entirety of humanity. Because each state has become somewhat tyrannical, this tyranny is overcome by the competition between states. Now, this isn't to say that one state shouldn't work towards alleviating tension between itself and another. This tension is dynamic. If the tension moves too far one way, as in towards complete agreement and unity, we get tyranny. And if it moves the other way, towards complete disagreement, we get total war and destruction, an eventual victor, and possibly tyranny again through the subjugation of the defeated powers. In other words, the very perpetuation of tension is important. The ideal state of being between these powers, in my view, is to have some degree of tension that can move slightly one way or another. And the powers in play will naturally regulate this tension. Such is fundamentally human. When there is too much disagreement, the states will make efforts to compromise. And though perhaps they might fail, they will try. And if there is too much agreement, there will be newborn critics who rise up to find some problem to decry. Have you ever found yourself complaining that too many people in society find reasons to complain even when life is really good? Well, to me, philosophically speaking, this is in the larger picture a positive force on society, because it prevents people from becoming complacent. We must always find ways to complain, lest we stop improving and allow ourselves to unify into a tyrannical mass. After all, you are complaining about people complaining. You're finding something somewhat silly to complain about. So what's my point with all of this? Well, the tension that takes place in the Expanse should not necessarily be perceived as the result of an unhealthy system. Actually, it could be quite the opposite, even if at times violence results. Though maybe let's avoid nuclear explosions that kill millions of people. The trick is to balance the system in such a way that power shifts back and forth without ever resulting in violence. With Avasarala away from Earth, the UN lost one of its checks to Ehrenreit, and South America go boom. The American system of federalism is beset by checks and balances. The system is balanced horizontally with the separation of federal power into 3 branches of government, and is balanced vertically with the division of power between a central government and regional ones. Then, in representative democracy, the people can check the entire government with their votes. And in any society, the people can attempt to check their rulers via protest or rebellion. And finally, so too can one nation check another should one state lack the means to check and balance itself. This global state of tension drives competition, criticism, improvement, and innovation. Thus, the point I hope to make clear is that though in society humans operate with the mindset that we are locked in a perpetual struggle to escape tension between interest groups, alleviating such conflict completely is not necessarily conducive to progress. Rather, the enlightened mind accepts this state of tension as an integral part of our collective survival and evolution, and frees itself from the stress that is produced by dreaming of total harmony amidst a violent reality. So going forward, I'd say try to keep these things in mind as you consider how to bring peace to the Sol system, because it's my contention that peace is best cultivated in a system rife with tension between Earth, Mars, and the Belt. And I am rife with tension right now between myself and the heat. So I need to call an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you thinking, and I hope it'll start a discussion down in the comments below. Do give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. As I just said, definitely comment, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell. For now, my name is American Ben, and I'll catch you next time. Generation Films, peace.